Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's Thursday. You know what that means. We're going to take a look at some of the best bets you could possibly make on the lines and the leans right now against the spread, some of the overs and unders. Andrew Erickson, as always, is here to have that discussion with me, and we always love bringing in fantastic guests here to the YouTube channel. This is one of my colleagues from Sports Grid again, Joe Lisi, who covers college football. He covers professional football. He does it all. And of course, you could follow him on the Twitter machine, or X, or whatever the hell it is today, at GoForThe2. That's the number 2 at the end. Joe, it's great to see you. I like having more than one Joe on the show. I like having more than one Italian on the show. But Joe, you're also a college football guy too. I got to ask you this question. How do you feel about all this Colorado stuff going on in the last few weeks of the college football season, just kind of taking that Deion Sanders narrative? It's been a fun story. I watched that first game. I fell in love with this team. It's good television. What do you think about Colorado and what's gone on so far in the CFB?
Oh, thanks for having me, Joe. It's amazing for college football. 9.3 million viewership last week. To just think about that for a second. The 5th largest watched college football game in the history of ESPN. Typically, late night action gets between 1 to 2 million viewers. They got 9.3. Their team is 3-0. They didn't get the cover, though, as a 23.5 point favorite. I was on Colorado State, so happy that they covered that number. But great for Deion Sanders. Great for Shedeur Sanders, a potential Heisman candidate. And there's now optimism and people that have bought into the Colorado program, and that's great for college football. Can't wait. We have an amazing slate for week number 4 and an amazing slate of NFL action in week number 3 as well.
Keep it real for me. That kid should have gotten thrown out for the Travis Hunter hit, right? I mean, come on. Come on, Joe.
I know it's a dirty hit, and I get it, but at the end of the day, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that it was a split-second decision. He got tackled with the 15-yarder. They didn't give him a targeting call. At the end of the day, I understand it was a little dirty. I get that. It is a rivalry game, and even Deion and Travis Hunter came out and said, let's move on. It might have been a little dirty, but it's part of football, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, I can't look at that. I know. I'm a defensive guy, Joe.
I know you are. So am I. I grew up with Ronnie Lott.
I can't, but
Ronnie Lott was my idol as a kid.
We go back to the days of Buddy Ryan and the Eagles with Andre Waters back in the day.
Joe, the first player that I ever really gravitated to was Ronnie Lott. I wanted to be Ronnie Lott when I was a kid. I wanted to hit people and look. But at the end of the day, game has changed now, and he is a tremendous player, too. Andrew Erickson, you're not a dirty player. You're the cleanest player in the game. Everybody knows that about you. Last week was a pretty good week. I'm going to come at you, though, because I bet the under for Drake London, and it did not go under. So what do you have to say for yourself, Andrew?
I mean, there were a lot of props that didn't go my way, but the Jake Ferguson first touchdown saved the day.
All right, let's get after it. Let's take a look at week 3. And while you're watching on the YouTube channel, even if you're listening, go to the YouTube channel, because if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Betting Pros. We keep growing every single day. And if you drop a comment below when you subscribe, you just might win a James Cook autographed jersey. Thanks to us here at Betting Pros. Why? Because we're cool and we're fun. And we like giving away free stuff. So make sure you go and comment below. And don't forget to click that little bell till it goes ding, so you know if you are the big winner of the James Cook autographed jersey. Gentlemen, let's kick things off with our guest here. Joe, let's talk about your favorite thing of the week. We got the Houston-Jacksonville game, and you got some feelings about it. So let's kick things off.
Yeah, I love the over. I was on the over Indianapolis and Houston. That was a light number. It got down to 38.5, 39, and they just blew through that in the first half of that matchup with Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. Now you go on the road to Duval County, Jacksonville coming off a loss. 2 great quarterbacks. I mean, C.J. Stroud, Joe, 384 yards. I said this, time and time again in the offseason. This young wide receiver core with Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, you got Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie. They have the potential to develop with C.J. Stroud. They're actually putting him in the same type of situation that he was in and he excelled in terms of Ohio State. I don't think they win this ball game, but I think they're going to put up some points on Jacksonville. And on the flip side, I expect Trevor Lawrence, Ridley, and Evan Ingram in that passing attack with Christian Kirk to score some points. They were in striking distance last week, missed opportunities. I think they bounced back this week, I think this game flies through the 44.5 Saturday afternoon in Jacksonville.
I love it. And this is the thing when people aren't watching the games, you nailed it, because I think what people don't realize about that total last week was there were missed opportunities everywhere. Calvin Ridley should have had 2 more touchdowns than he had instead of 0. And to me, CJ Stroud has looked the best of the rookie quarterbacks overall. And I don't think that's a hot take. Like, I know Richardson's fun, right, and I know he's exciting, but Andrew knows this too. I was very on CJ Stroud, back in draft season. My number 1 overall bet of the NFL draft was CJ Stroud to go number 2 overall. And then when Reddit broke that stupid Will Levis thing, I told everybody, bet it again. Bet it 3 times, bet it 4 times. If that number's growing anywhere, go get it. So hopefully people did, because the Texans got their guy. Andrew, let's go to you for one of your favorite bets in week 3. What do you have?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Tennessee Titans against the Cleveland Browns. I'm going with Titans +3. Look, the Tennessee Titans are one of these defenses that you cannot run the football on. So what does that mean for Cleveland? Okay, we're going to put the ball in Deshaun Watson's hands and his arm, which has looked looked absolutely terrible over the past 2 weeks, dating back to last season when he came back from his suspension. So he ranks last in adjusted completion percentage, 4th worst in completion rate over expectation. So if they're going to win this game, it's going to have to be through Deshaun Watson's passing game, which has just been horrible up to this point. So I'm going to continue to back Mike Vrabel, who continues to just do the most with the least amount of talent around him. And this Titans defensive line, I expect to just get after Deshaun Watson. It's a fierce defensive line. They don't have Jack Conklin anymore. That's a big loss. And obviously losing Nick Chubb. They're not going to be able to establish the run with Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt. These guys are backup players. So I think that the Browns offense is going to struggle. I think this game is going to be a dogfight. It's going to be ugly.
Yep.
And who wins ugly? Mike Vrabel. That's what he does, consistently. And with Ryan Tannehill specifically, 5-1-1 versus the spread, versus 3-point spreads in his last 7 starts. So in close games, when he has Ryan Tannehill, the Titans find a way to win.
On Monday, we always do that early look-ahead show. The lines drop, and we kind of take a look at everything. And I bet this one when it was 4.5. So now I feel really smart that you're still on it at 3. Because and this is some of the benefits when we start to look at those things. And this was before the Chubb injury, before everything that happened. But I think the mindset's the same, Andrew, which is you're looking at this football game, and Deshaun Watson continues to struggle. And on top of that, Mike Vrabel just finds a way. I don't know how with the roster he's got this year, but I was kind of sour on the Titans. But once again, they're proving me wrong. Joe Lisi, what do you have here? Let's go to the next one that you have lined up here. One of your favorite bets for week 3.
Well, one of them is the Browns, right? So I might as well just keep it right there. I went a little bit the opposite side. When I look at this game, I believe in Deshaun Watson. I like the addition of Kareem Hunt, and just not sold on Tannehill, guys. So for me, when I look at this ball game and I just look at it equally, do I want to bet on Ryan Tannehill catching the 3.5 and Derrick Henry, or do I want to take Deshaun Watson in a potential bounce back spot playing at home? That's where I lean to Cleveland in terms of this matchup. I think they start aggressive. We saw the second half, Jerome Ford, the speedster out of Cincinnati, made some plays. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. How do they utilize Kareem Hunt in this ballgame as well? I think potentially in the short to intermediate passing game. I know the numbers suggest Tennessee, but I'll go the other way and just say Cleveland does strike, the cover here as a 3.5 point favorite.
With Tennessee being so good typically against the run, I'm kind of curious if Pierre Strong gets some work in the passing game too. I think that might be a guy you start to use. I wonder if Elijah Moore gets work out of the backfield too. They just try to do some clever things. I think Stefanski's got to get clever here against Tennessee, because I don't think you can man up with this defensive line. I think it's a big mistake if they try to do that.
Yeah. Where was Peoples-Jones last week too? He had 2 catches for 7 yards. Elijah Moore, he wasn't targeted in the second half of that ball game. So if Cleveland big picture is going to challenge Joe Burrow, Baltimore, they need to evolve in terms of the passing game. So again, I'm buying into it this week. If they fail to get over that 225 in terms of Deshaun passing, then he's dead to me. I might sell them the rest of the year.
Well, I bought the Browns in week 1. Everybody knows I was in on that upset there with Cincinnati, with Joe Burrow and the history of that, not to mention the injury. But after that, I decided to leave on a high note. I went full Costanza, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go straight for the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. So far, I'm 2 for 2 when it comes to Cleveland games.
That's great.
But so far, that's why this one I'm a little hesitant. But I did bet that 4.5 because I just thought it was too big there on the other side there for the Tennessee Titans. But again, if you need to stay on top of all the lines, make sure they're using the BettingPros app. Make sure you're using the game notification feature here with the line alerts, because if you can set a certain game that you're looking at, if there's injuries involved or, even circumstances that, would involve weather or whatever it might be, if you set the game notifications here, you'll get those alerts to your phone. You'll know exactly when the lines move and exactly where they're moving so you can bet them. That's what we do here for you on the Betting Pros app. So if you haven't already, download it, sync all your sports books, because that's how you start betting smarter and not harder. Erickson, let's go back to you for another game here in week 3. What do you have?
Yeah, I'm looking at the New England Patriots going on the road to take on the New York Jets. They are 2.5-point favorites, and I am backing the Patriots here in this matchup against Zach Wilson, who is 0-4, 4 prior matchups against the Patriots. And the Patriots do this thing where when they play bad quarterbacks, they annihilate them. Like, they don't just beat these bad quarterbacks, they beat them into the ground. And the fact that the Patriots defense has played relatively well against Jalen Hurts, against Tua Tagovailoa, that gives me a lot of confidence that they're going to win by at least a field goal against a Zach Wilson-led squad that looked lifeless on offense against Dallas. I know that they beat Buffalo in the upset, but I just have no confidence that Zach Wilson can beat this Bill Belichick defense. And if it's going to be 10-3, if that's the way that the Patriots win this game against the Jets, so be it. I just think that Mac Jones and the Patriots offense has shown enough against the Eagles, against the Dolphins, that they can at least score points against the Jets at some point on offense, especially when they're not going to be, they don't have to go super pass heavy. The last 2 games the Patriots have played, they've been down 2 touchdowns from the get-go. So they've had to abandon the run game. They've had to go automatic to passing to Mac Jones. And that isn't, I think, their identity on offense. I think they want to be more balanced. And the Jets being a more back and forth game, that's going to allow them to execute the offense that they want to have for this season and this game. So for me,
a lot of turnovers for Zach Wilson against the Patriots. And to your point too, the Pats offense has come out sluggish in both of these games. They've made good adjustments though. But Joe, I know you're on the other side of this game, so I'd love to hear the other side point of view, because Zach Wilson has struggled against Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has owned any youthful or quarterbacks that struggle in the NFL. He's going to throw a lot of confusing looks at you, and the turnover ratio speaks for itself in his games against the Patriots. But what do you see here with the Jets, maybe with Breece Hall or somebody else here, where they can keep this game close?
Well, it's a huge coaching advantage in terms of Belichick over Robert Saleh. So I'll give him that. And I agree with you. The numbers all favor the New England Patriots heading into this ballgame. As bad as the Patriots have been, they still find ways to abuse the New York Jets. This line to me is a little bit fishy in terms of 2.5. And for me, I'm going to take the better weapons in terms of New York. I understand it's Zach Wilson. I understand he was completely inconsistent last week against potentially one of the better defenses in the NFC in terms of Dallas last week. Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook did not get going. He was the leading rusher as well in terms of that ball game last week. They're going to need the rushing attack. But I'm buying into the fact, and this is not a buy on the Jets long-term, Joe and Erickson, but I'll say this in terms of this matchup. Is Bill Belichick and New England going the other way? I have no confidence in terms of that offensive philosophy, no confidence in Ramondre Stevenson or the rushing attack with Zeke back there. They're completely one-dimensional. They don't have any weapons to potentially challenge Sauce Gardner and that defense over the top. So what's the defensive game plan? Stack the box and force Mac Jones to beat us over the top, and we can play man-to-man coverage. That is the only reason why I'm back in New York. I know the numbers are completely in favor of New England, but I just think he's an old man now. I really do. That's not a knock in terms of what he did.
You're talking to 2 Patriots fans. I'm wearing my old school NFL Blitz.
Joe.
Hey, look, I'm wearing my old school Randy Moss Patriots NFL Blitz shirt today. But
he can see the punches coming. He just can't get out of the way anymore.
Well, because he thinks he can coach himself out of any roster. And you know what? I think modern day football is just a little bit different now. The game has changed. If you don't have those explosive playmakers, you can't quite compete anymore. That being said, I'm sure Andrew's got 2 words for everybody, and those words are Kayshon Boutte, right, Andrew? Come on. That's your guy.
Love him.
Well, I mean, Demario Douglas is going back to the bench because he fumbled.
To that
so
point,
we're going to get Boutte back
Douglas,
in the lineup for week 3.
I think the kind of Pop Douglas energy is exactly what they need. But because of the fumble, he's in the doghouse now. Do you think he gets a second shot in this game, Andrew?
I mean, he should. I mean,
I know.
Jalen Reagor
Let's not
was
say
active
things like
for the
that.
Patriots
Let's not talk about
in
that
week 2,
because that's
which
just depressing.
I was like,
yeah, that's depressing. Let's never mention Jalen Reagor on this show again.
So
I think that's all for the best. All right,
No TCU. You don't like the TCU love. How about Quentin Johnston?
QJ I like. QJ I think is going to get his opportunity.
He just got to.
Yeah,
he's got to get
as soon as
some.
Mike
He's got to get some playing
Williams
time
gets hurt,
first.
that'll happen. So that should be any minute now. All right, so you guys are on the opposite end of the Jets game. Andrew, let's go to you for another game too. I know you feel strongly about the Ravens this week.
Yeah, the Ravens minus 7.5 is the thing that I'm looking at for them. Look, they're playing the Indianapolis Colts, so we still don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts this week, whether it's Gardner Minshew, whether it's Anthony Richardson. I don't think it really matters. Look, the Baltimore Ravens are one of the 2 teams left in the AFC that's undefeated, and I think that they really showed us last week how top tier of a team that they can be, how complete of a team they can be on offense, and specifically as their defense starts to get a little bit healthier. I think that they're going to just continue to dominate inferior opponents. And that's the case here with the Indianapolis Colts. You saw Lamar Jackson, the offense, start to get rolling with Mark Andrews back in the lineup. So for me, I think that Gardner Minshew is a quarterback that if he gets the start, he can steady the ship, but enough to keep this game within a touchdown, I don't think so. I think that the Ravens are going to be, again, a team when they play at home, when they play bad opponents, they blow them out. Like they beat them by 10 points. They took care of business against the Texans. They took care of business against the Bengals. I just think it's another game where the Ravens they're a top tier team for a reason. 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games. They cover.
Now that line in a lot of spots, I see it over on
here.
DraftKings, on BettingPros. I see it moving in a couple spots. Right now, the best line you can get is 8. Some books already have it at 8.5. Do you still like it at the 8?
Yeah, so I took it at 8.5 when the lines first dropped because I thought they would actually go more in favor of Baltimore. Like I thought it could get up. I mean, because they opened as 10-point favorites to another rookie quarterback in the Texans, at home. So I figured that we could see that go to that line.
Okay,
so,
let's go back to you, Joe Lisi.
What
do you have for the people in week 3? Give us another best bet of yours.
Potential upset at 4:00 in Seattle. I'm taking Carolina with Bryce Young plus the 6.5, and don't be shocked if they strike the upset on the road. I was on Seattle last year, Joe and Andrew, and I thought they would over-exceed expectations. They go 9-8. They push San Francisco as the second best team in terms of the NFC West. I was against them in terms of their week 1 game against LA. They lose. They bounce back last week. I know they put up 37 points, but I'm just not buying it. I don't believe they're the second best team in the division. I'm not a buyer of Geno Smith. I'm not a buyer of the offense as a whole. And the rushing attack hasn't been all that great with Kenneth Walker. He only had 43 yards last week. I think Carolina could be in this ballgame, especially Frank Reich. Put the ball into Bryce Young's hands. Can you allow this guy to cook? Instead of running it on 1st and 2nd down, how about we throw it? So I'm calling for the upset on the road at 4:30. Could think it could be a high-scoring game as well. I think the total is 42.5, 43 in that matchup. Don't be shocked if they go through that number as well.
Well, that's been what everybody's rattling the cages about, is to let Bryce Young throw the football. The offense is too conservative. Look, we saw it again on Monday, too conservative, and it probably cost them that game. I know they kind of, got back and made things interesting towards the end there, but I mean, we haven't seen anything close to that happening. So what's your inclination that's going to happen this week? Do you think it's just all of the chirping in the media and all the things that everybody in the fan base starts talking about Carolina, says, hey, we drafted this guy. You got to let him throw the football. Look what CJ Stroud's doing. He's dropping 300-yard games every week.
Yeah, I think it's styles make fights, right? And I think that when you saw Matt Stafford attack that secondary over the top for 334 in their house, same type of mindset for Carolina. They have weapons. I like Chark. I like some of the playmakers that they have. They just need to be more aggressive in terms of the play calling. Bryce Young can read coverage. He's great at breaking down coverage. He's great if you watch his college game and keeping his eyes downfield and fitting balls into tight windows, buying time. You have to be more aggressive. You cannot put him in to predictable long 3rd down situations because you want to run the football with Miles Sanders. Sometimes you have to throw to open up the run, Joe.
Makes sense to me. Now, look, as your guys are listening to all of these picks here, don't forget, make sure you're logging them in bettingpros.com and join our NFL contest because, again, it doesn't cost you anything. It's free to do. You make your picks. You make 5 a week. You make 100 for the season. And just like that, you're eligible for some cool prizes. So every week we're giving away a swag to our Betting Pros and Fantasy Pros shops. We're giving away also some 1-year premium subscriptions to Betting Pros, 2 Fantasy Pros, and the grand prize winner is going to get an autographed Jackson Smith and Jigba. So go to bettingpros.com/NFL contest, join today, or if you already have the app, just click that community tab, look for NFL contest, join that bad boy, and you can follow us all there too, bettingpros.com/Joe/Fitz/Erickson, and see what we're on top of. So stay on top. You can also follow all of the best bettors too, who are having better weeks than I had last week. And I hit some big specials I talked about on the Monday show, so that saved my day. Joe, there was a special on FanDuel last week. It made me so happy. I was almost going to cry. It was plus money, Micah Parsons to get a sack and the Cowboys to win. I couldn't believe it was plus 125. I'm like, well, I'm going to make a lot of investment on that because that seems like a lock to me. I can't wait for whatever this week's special is with Micah Parsons. Whatever it is,
it's
just bet
great.
It. Just bet it.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I mean, they play Arizona and Josh Dobbs this week.
I'm waiting for it. I haven't seen it pop up yet. I'm waiting for it. I want to see, like, come on, give me some Micah Parsons. What, 2 sacks, 3 sacks? I don't know. I want to see what it is. I might just go up the ladder and see what happens. All right, so we talked about the Ravens last with you, Andrew. We just talked about Carolina with Joe. Let's get into another one of your bets, Erickson, here for week 3.
Yeah, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins, -6 at home against the most overrated team in the NFL, I think the Denver Broncos, who are now currently 0-2 versus the spread since Sean Payton took over. You know, they were doing horrible against the spread during the preseason. We talked about this during preseason betting. We're like, people are on Denver. Like, Denver's going to turn it around. They're playing their starters. And it didn't matter. Like, this team has been so overrated. People still think Sean Payton's, like, magic touch is going to sprinkle on Russell Wilson, who is a combined 10 and 21 in his last 31
I'm betting
games.
This game, I'm betting
Wilson.
the first half. First half Denver Bronco lead, because you know it's all going to be downhill from there. That's what we've learned so far. They can't hold the lead.
I'm a believer in the Miami Dolphins and what they're doing with Mike McDaniel. I think that they're just going to totally outclass, run circles around this Denver Broncos defense that has allowed 26 points per game to the Commanders and the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, are we serious here? This defense is overrated. Their offense is overrated. So 6 points, that's it, at home in Miami's first home game of the year, where they want to show everyone, all their fans, that we're for real. We're going to put the clamps down on this Denver Broncos team that's super overrated. Yeah, for me, this is one of my favorite bets. Miami was 6-2 at home last year, 5-1 with Tua. Average margin of victory, 10.5 points.
I gotta say too, I would
Miami's
keep
going to blow the
most
water out of Denver.
Rushing yards too. I like that number in this game too, because Denver has not been good against the run this year either. All right, Joe, let's go to you for one more in week 3. What do you have for the people?
Well, it's in Arizona. It's Dallas on the road, laying 12.5. Look, at the end of the day, I understand Arizona's covered 2 straight. I was on them week 1 plus the 7 against Washington. That was a total anti-Ron Rivera bet. That's the only reason why I made it. If there's one coach that could kill a franchise, well, maybe 2. It's Matt Eberflus and Ron Rivera. But at the end of the day, I don't see any way Josh Dobbs moves the football on that defense. If Zach Wilson obviously couldn't do it with Garrett Wilson and those playmakers, they shut down the run. I don't think James Conner will be a factor. I think Dak has a huge day. And at the end of the day now, after they lost that ball game in the fourth quarter to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, giving up 321 passing yards to the Giants offense, I think it's a field day for Dallas. They beat up on teams like this. This could be the game where you just sell Arizona the rest of the regular season. I'm a guy that bet Arizona 0 wins, 1 win, 2 wins, and 3 wins. I'm screwed at 4, so I need an 0-17 start. So I'm laying it with Dallas. I think that's the side. I can't bet Josh Dobbs in terms of this ball game up against Dallas.
You can't. Not with that offensive line the Cardinals have. Not with the way Micah Parsons is. He is so quick off the ball, Joe. I mean, and they've got him working on the outside and stunting on the inside. Like, it's just amazing to watch what he's doing right now. I every play, like, all I'm watching is, okay, where's Micah Parsons? I'm going to watch wherever he's going and stuff. It's like watching old school LT. For those of us who are old enough to remember, Andrew Erickson, I know you are not, so I'm not going to ask you. But Joe and I remember. Get out of here with the LaDainian Tomlinson. No, he was great too. But it's amazing too. The original number on this game was 6.5, and now it's 12.5. It's amazing, in just a couple weeks how things change. But look, 12.5. I'm with you. And the other big line of this week too is Kansas City, which, considering everything is going on with the Bears, that's another one too where the 12.5 I think is safe. Joe, do you agree that that's another one too where? I know it looks too good to be true, but it feels like, man, just go in Kansas City side here.
No, I'm taking the points with Chicago.
You
I'm
are.
actually
You're buying the Justin Fields air raid. I've done 12 in a row losses.
And I'm a contrarian
I know you
better,
are.
especially in the NFL when things smell. I think you're going to have 90% of the money on Kansas City, especially at home, especially the fact that they beat up on Jacksonville. I understand it's the Bears. I understand they're completely one-dimensional, but I think somehow, some way they cover that number. I think it's a lower scoring game, just what we saw in terms of Duval County. Somehow, some way, Justin Fields steals it. And I hope they open up the offense for his sake, because I don't understand why you draft him and then don't put him in an offensive scheme that's to his strengths, just like Jalen Hurts and all the rest of the young quarterbacks. Absolutely no sense to me.
Me neither. I got to say, Matt Nagy effect, too, on the offense has not been a positive thing. You want to talk about guys who can ruin nice things. Matt Nagy can certainly ruin nice things as well. They got to figure that stuff out fast. All right, Erickson, one more for you. What do you have for week 3? Let's close it out strong.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions and Falcons over at Ford Field. I'm going with the over because Ford Field is the new Coors Field for the NFL. Looking at the Lions' last 10 home games, right? Average total has been 59 total points scored. 90% of the games they've played at home over that span have scored at least 51 points. The total is 46. Like, come on. The Falcons' offense is so dynamic with the playmakers that they have at their disposal between Bijan, between Pitts, between Drake London. I think that this offense, it doesn't match up. You can't look at, rushing yards allowed for the Lions because the Falcons running game is going to run on everybody. It doesn't matter what defense you're putting out there. And I especially don't think that the Lions are this formidable opponent that, Arthur Smith's going to get away from using Bijan in this matchup. It's like, no. Like, you have explosive playmaker after explosive playmaker in this game in a dome. So for me, I am taking the over easily in this game, especially with that at 46. I think there's some concerns about why with some injuries with the Lions, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is practicing today, so he's going to be back for the Lions. Jared Goff will have his best player, and when Jared Goff has time in the pocket, he delivers. And the Falcons don't create pass rush. Last week against Jordan Love, they pressured him on 22% of the dropbacks. What happened? Jordan Love threw 3 touchdowns. Like, for me, this game is going to be fun. I think it's kind of flying under the radar because of some of these injuries, and I was really surprised that it's still at 46, or at least the last time I checked, it was at 46, and I wonder if it's going to go up.
Still 46. I'm looking at BettingPros right now. I know DK Caesars has at 46. If you like the under, you can get 46 in the hook right now. That's what it looks like. It's funny. There's some good. Last week we talked about Seattle and Detroit being the sneaky over, and certainly it was. And this week, I think it's 2 weeks in a row. And by the way, speaking of big totals too, that Minnesota Charger game, I don't care how big you make that total, I'm going over it. Like, I've watched these two teams play defense for the last 2 weeks. Sorry, like they're gonna try to play man to man with. I mean, God bless Brian Flores, but he's trying to play man to man still here in this league, and it's not that easy to do unless you have the personnel to do it.
Well, he's in a situation where he's like, all right, well, we're either going to try to get a turnover or give up a touchdown.
The latter.
Like, we don't really care.
So far, it's been the latter.
We're
just to recap
anyway.
what everyone's got here, Erickson's in on the Titans at +3, the Patriots at -2.5, the Ravens at -7.5, the Dolphins at -6, and the Lions Falcons over 46. And Joe Lisi is in on the over with Houston and Jacksonville at 44.5, the Browns -3.5, the Jets +2.5, the Carolina Panthers +6, and the Cowboys, no numbers too big for me and Joe on that game again, 12.5 on the side of the Cowboys. Joe, it's great hanging out with you, man. I appreciate you coming on, making time for us on the show. Go watch Joe every weekend over on Sports Grid. He does phenomenal work there covering the NFL. His show's right after my show on Sunday, so I'm 8 to 10, and then he's right after that from 10 till kickoff time. They do a great job. Him, Kevin Walsh, the whole crew over there. So go check him out on Sports Grid. He's doing college. He's doing everything. He's a very busy man, and he still finds time to go to the gym and get swole. That's what all us older guys still getting swole here. Erickson, this is for you. I know you were swole in your teen years, in the big bodybuilding era that you did. But when you get old like us, you gotta maintain it. That's what you got to do, Erickson. You can go buy the creatine after the show. That's what we can do.
buy the creatine, take the
It'll be a good
dumbbells
time.
on a
All
ride
right,
on the
everybody,
incline.
make
It'll
sure
be great.
you go
It'll be
and join
great.
the NFL contest at bettingpros.com/NFL contest. Drop a comment below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, win that James Cook jersey, and follow us and download that Betting Pros app. Set that notifications, follow the elite bettors, start betting smarter, not harder. That's what we're trying to do here. Sync all your sports books, get the best lines. That's what Betting Pros is all about. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Joe Lisi and Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.